Welcome to the forecast at the J-Spot, the place where we stimulate the most sensitive parts of your brain right before your week takes a turn into madness.
And if you are listening to this right now, just go ahead and take a breath.
Yeah.
Because it is Sunday morning, March 1st, 2026. You've navigated the chaotic days of February, and you are currently standing on the threshold of a totally new month.
A very significant month, actually, because today marks the official start of Women's History Month. And, normally our Sunday mornings are for slow coffee.
Very slow coffee.
Right, and maybe ignoring the mounting anxiety of the week ahead. But the vibe today feels a bit different. It's optimistic, sure, but there's a real weight to it.
Yeah.
We aren't just flipping a calendar page. We are stepping into a month that, frankly, asks a lot of us.
It really does. And that is exactly why the mission for our deep dive today is very specific. Right. We aren't just doing some polite historical retrospective. Yeah. We are setting a strategic intention for your next 7 days. We want to look at the week ahead through a lens that combines intersectional feminism with what I like to call radical structural self-preservation.
Radical structural self-preservation. I love that. I like that term way better than just, self-care.
Right, because self-care has sort of been co-opted.
Yeah. This come to mean buying expensive bath bombs or face masks. But we are talking about the actual architecture of how we survive and thrive.
Precisely. And to guide this conversation, we have pulled a pretty heavy stack of sources for this deep dive.
We really did.
Yeah. We're looking at press releases from the National Women's History Alliance regarding their 2026 theme. We have United Nations reports on the global state of gender equity, plus some historical archives on the socialist origins of this month. And finally, some practical psychological guides on boundary setting from Mental Health America and Johns Hopkins Medicine.
So it's a real mix of the political and the very personal. Sure. Let's just unpack this right from the top. It's March 2026. What is the headline here? What is the organizing principle for the month, according to the sources?
So the National Women's History Alliance has designated the 2026 theme as Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future.
A sustainable future. I have to be honest, when I hear the word sustainability, my mind immediately goes to climate change.
Sure. Recycling, electric grids.
Carbon footprints, exactly. Is that the primary focus of their theme?
Well, that's the surface level association.
Yeah.
And it is certainly a part of it, especially given the ongoing climate crisis. But the source material pushes for a much broader, more robust definition of sustainability.
Okay, like what?
They are talking about sustainability in terms of human systems, financial sustainability, community resilience, leadership succession.
So not just keeping the planet from burning up, but keeping the people from burning out.
That is exactly it. It's about intergenerational equity. The Alliance is highlighting how women are designing blueprints for economic and social systems that don't just collapse under their own weight.
Right.
Think about the way we work, or the way we care for elders, how we distribute resources. If those systems rely on the unpaid, endless labor of women just to function.
Yeah, which they often do.
Right. If they rely on that, they aren't sustainable. They're extractive.
That is such a crucial distinction. If the system only works because half the population is over-functioning for free, that is a fundamentally broken system.
And that leads us directly into next week. Sunday, March 8th is International Women's Day.
Yes.
And frankly, the themes here offer a little bit of friction. The global campaign theme for IWD is Give to Gain.
Give to gain. I'm going to pause you right there.
Yeah.
Because that sounds complicated. In a world where the sources literally just told us women are statistically giving more time, more emotional labor, more care.
Right.
Telling them to give to gain feels a tiny bit tone deaf. Is that just me?
No, not at all. Your skepticism is completely valid.
Right.
On the surface, it sounds very transactional, or like it's just asking women for even more later.
Exactly.
But the intention behind the source material is actually about reframing generosity as a power move. It's about sharing knowledge, social capital, and advocacy to create collective velocity.
Collective velocity, okay.
The argument they're making is that if you gatekeep your success, you stand alone. But if you give mentorship, you build a coalition.
Okay, I can see the strategy in that. It's giving as an investment in the collective, not giving as a personal depletion.
Right.
But I know the UN usually has a slightly different take on this day.
They do. The United Nations theme is much more direct. Their theme is rights, justice, action for all women and girls.
See, that feels less like a corporate slogan and way more like a demand.
It is a demand, and it is born out of absolute necessity. The UN source provided a statistic for 2026 that I think completely recontextualizes why we're even having this conversation today.
Hit me with it.
As of right now, women still hold only 64% of the legal rights that men hold worldwide.
64%.
Yep.
We are a quarter of the way into the 21st century.
Yeah. And it gets worse. At the current pace of legislative change, the UN projects it will take 286 years to close the legal protection gaps.
Wait, 286 years?
Yes.
That is 10 generations. That is not a gap. That is a massive chasm. That means my great-great-great-granddaughter might see parity? Maybe.
It is an incredibly sobering timeline. And that is why the rights, justice, action theme is so critical. It reminds us that this month isn't just a polite celebration of past achievements.
Yeah.
It is a spotlight on a current active emergency.
Yeah.
The sources show we are looking at a world where, in fundamental areas like property rights, basic safety, bodily autonomy, the law systematically disadvantages women.
It really frames the month differently. It's not just, look how far we've come. It's look how far we still have to go.
Exactly.
And speaking of where we came from, the historical sources in our stack were honestly pretty jarring. I think we have really sanitized the origins of this month over the years.
Oh, we have absolutely polished the edges off.
Right. We think of it as this polite institutional observance with, corporate luncheons.
But the roots are incredibly radical. The historical sources point back to 1909 in New York City.
The garment workers' strike.
Yes.
Yeah.
This wasn't a brunch. This was 20,000 women, mostly immigrants, working in dangerous, fire-prone factories for literal pennies.
Yeah.
And they just walked off the job.
Wow.
They were beaten in the streets. They were arrested, but they held the line. That was the spark. And then if you look at 1917, the connection to the Russian Revolution is just undeniable.
The Bread and Peace March. I think people totally forget that International Women's Day was actually a trigger for the fall of the Tsar.
It was. Russian women textile workers in Petrograd took to the streets. They were demanding food for their families and an end to World War I. So it was not a parade.
No.
It was a massive strike that spiraled into a revolution. And because of that intense pressure, women in Russia gained the right to vote in 1917. That was years before the United States passed the 19th Amendment.
It's wild to think about. The movement began as a labor movement deeply rooted in socialism. It was spearheaded by figures like Clara Zetkin. It was about raw survival, not just empowerment in the modern hashtag sense.
Exactly. It was fundamentally anti-establishment. It wasn't designed to sell greeting cards. It was designed to topple oppressive systems.
Which perfectly brings us to the lens the sources say we need to use today, which is intersectionality.
Yes.
Now, this is a term that gets thrown around a lot, right? In corporate diversity training and HR memos, often incorrectly. But to truly understand the UN's Rights for All theme, the sources take us back to Kimberly Crenshaw's original definition from 1989.
It is a non-negotiable concept.
Yeah.
Crenshaw introduced the term using the analogy of a literal traffic intersection.
Okay, break that down for us.
So if an accident happens at an intersection in the road, it can be caused by traffic coming from any direction, north, south, east, or west.
Right. And sometimes the crash is caused by cars coming from multiple directions at the exact same time.
Precisely. If a black woman is harmed, it might be due to race discrimination, it might be gender discrimination, or it might be the unique simultaneous collision of both.
Right.
But the problem is, the legal system is often built to only see one lane of traffic at a time.
The source material highlighted that General Motors legal case that Crenshaw analyzed. I think this case is the perfect aha moment for understanding why this matters so much. Can you explain what happened there?
Absolutely. So in this case, black women sued General Motors for discrimination. They argued they were being systematically excluded from jobs at the company.
Okay.
But the court actually dismissed the case.
Why would they dismiss it?
Because the court looked at the company's data and said, well, General Motors hires plenty of African Americans.
But those hires were all men.
Exactly, working on the factory floor. And then the court said, well, and General Motors also hires plenty of women.
But those hires were all white women.
Right, again, working in secretarial roles.
Wow. So because black men had jobs and white women had jobs, the court literally couldn't see the discrimination against black women.
Precisely. The black women were caught right in the intersection. They were excluded from the factory jobs because they were women, and they were excluded from the office jobs because they were black. But because the law only had a distinct box for race or a distinct box for gender, their specific lived experience was completely invisible to the court.
That is the core of it, isn't it? It's not just double discrimination. It is a unique form of invisibility.
And that is exactly why intersectionality is an analytical tool, not just a corporate buzzword. It forces us to ask the hard questions. If a policy is helping women, we have to ask, which women?
Right. Is it just helping the white secretary, or does it also help the black factory worker? And the sources for 2026 highlight that this is still happening right now. Climate change, economic instability. These things hit marginalized women first, and they hit them the hardest.
Always.
If we aren't designing solutions for the most vulnerable people in the intersection, we aren't designing sustainable solutions at all. That is heavy. That is the political landscape, the macro view. But I want to pivot a bit here.
Let's do it.
Because staring at a nearly 3-century timeline and the complexities of intersectional law is, well, it's exhausting. It's a lot to carry into a Sunday morning. Which brings up that famous Audre Lorde quote in our stack. She wrote, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." Wow. So keeping yourself rested and sane is literally an act of rebellion. So for this first week of March, our tactical focus for you, the listener, is on setting boundaries. But we aren't just talking about, politely saying no to a dinner party. We are looking at the deep psychology behind why we struggle to do it in the first place. The Psychology Today source talks about something called the fawn response, the adrenaline response. You essentially learn to merge your own needs with theirs. That explains so much. That explains the physical anxiety, right? The tight chest, the racing heart, just from trying to decline an extra project at work. Okay, let's look at the workplace one first. The script suggests saying, "I can't take on additional tasks right now, but I'm happy to revisit this later." So, I like that. It protects your bandwidth without burning the professional bridge. What about social obligations? The source suggests saying, "Thanks for the invite, but I need some downtime this weekend." An excuse.
Right.
There's no, my stomach hurts, or I have to clean the garage, or my kid is sick. And then you're totally trapped.
You're trapped.
I think the hardest one is emotional boundaries, though, especially with family members or really close friends. The script here is, "I appreciate your concern, but I'd rather handle this my own way." The door close method.
Yeah.
And the Nasiha source reminds us of a really tough truth. Boundaries must be enforceable.
Yes.
If you set a boundary and then you just let someone walk all over it anyway, you haven't built a wall, you've just drawn a line in the sand that creates more confusion for everyone. Which connects right back to the biology of it all. You need the physical resilience to follow through on that threat. The Johns Hopkins source on hormone health and the documentary The M Factor wasn't just about menopause, it was about the actual neurochemistry of stress. You get brain fog. So things like sleep hygiene and diet aren't just cute wellness trends. They are the physical tools that allow you to maintain your boundaries. You cannot dismantle a 286-year-old oppressive system with an overactive amygdala. The logistics of revolution. Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground for a Sunday morning deep dive. We've gone from the factory floors of 1909 to the legal loopholes of the 1980s, all the way down to the cortisol levels in our bloodstreams today. So, as our listeners look ahead to the next 7 days, what is the final thought you want to leave them with? And realizing that if everyone at the table looks exactly like you have some serious work to do. That is the work. And before we officially sign off, I just want to sneak in a very quick random shout out.
Please do.
This is for all the listeners out there who are the first in their families to go to college. We know the semester is really grinding on right now. We know the pressure to succeed, to lift up your whole family is just immense. But we see you. You are literally leading the change in your own lineage. So keep going, chase those dreams, set your boundaries, eat your protein, and do not be afraid to take up space. The J Spot is a Jay Briar Allen production, edited by Jay Rivera, Danielle Reyes, and Gisette Garcia.